Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I will be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I am not joined by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Gio. She's out running errands. But there was some chatter in our BTV group, and I thought, wow, this is great stuff that people are talking about in there. And I wanted to comment on fake love and light and real raw consciousness. And we titled the show Fake Love and Light versus Real Raw Consciousness. And I thought this would be a good idea, a good time to go ahead and just talk about these ideas that we talk about here on Beyond the Veil, because our brand of spirituality is a little bit different than what people are used to. And it's one that we have found from working one-on-one with the plants, from going through the journey, going through the process of tearing ourselves down and coming to a point where we realize, and again, this may not apply to everybody, but we realize that we're on the warrior's path. We're not on, the ascension path. And I think the difference between the ascension path and the warrior's path is that the warrior's path is one for those who have already been through the ascension process. And we already ascended through this machine. We already played the game. We already beat the game. And now we're coming back and trying to fix something for one reason or another. And, we each have our own different roles that we take on while we're here in this matrix, and the reason for coming back into the machine. But I think it's important, and at the risk of sounding, oh, there we go. Okay, my mic sounded all funky a minute ago. I guess I'll just leave it like that since it started like that. Nope. Here, I'll switch it out like that. All right. So, now my EQ settings are all messed up. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. I think the warrior's path is for those that have already gone through the ascension wheel. And we've come back down here for a particular reason. So, at the risk of sounding egotistical, at the risk of sounding, like an overinflated ego or anything like that, you come to a point where you realize, I've already been through this. I've already done all this. I'm here to get a job done. More and more people are starting to realize that. And I'm realizing as well, as I'm tapping into this gnosis even more, that the ascension path is for some people. It's for the people that haven't ascended, beyond this machine yet, but it doesn't apply to everybody. And there are many, many, many different truths in this matrix. But somebody had posted this, and it started quite a bit of controversy in our group, because the group on Facebook has kind of taken a life of its own. And so it's people of all different walks of life and different BS, different belief systems and all that, that have kind of come together, and they're exchanging ideas. And I do have to say, a lot of the stuff in the group I don't agree with. But I like to keep things completely free speech based and, let people speak their own truth. That's the reason why we created the group. We didn't create it to be an echo chamber for Beyond the Veil. But from time to time, there are things that I really appreciate people posting. So somebody had posted this particular message here. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen a little bit better. And this was from somebody's tweet. And I've seen this circulating all around. So it's not just our group, but it's several other places. And excuse the language here. The language is going to be a little bit rough in this particular broadcast. But fuck the notion that you have to be nice to be seen as spiritual. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is put a bitch in her place. Respecting your boundaries is spiritual. Not being taken advantage of is spiritual. Allowing yourself to feel anger is spiritual. And that may seem contrary or counterintuitive to a lot of people in the ascension process. But when you come to the point of raw consciousness, and you come to the point of going through the fire, stepping through the fire, completely divesting yourself of all of your ego, you realize that it's a pretty brutal challenge that you've put yourself through. And you don't come out all love and light and glowing and all of this. Quite the contrary. You come out just like any other person that has been to battle, that has been to war. And so I've said this on the broadcast before, so forgive me if any of this sounds redundant, but when I see people that are all love and light, to me, it tells me that they haven't gone through the fire yet. And then also it comes a matter of respecting yourself, as this person said so eloquently. And respecting yourself means that you're not going to be a doormat for people. When we first started the journey, when we were still trying to get to where we are instead of being where we are, that's the path that we thought was right. We thought that the end game of all of this was this Christ consciousness, and then you put some shit between your forehead and, all that. And it's, oh, I love you and I love you and I love you and I love you. But it's a world of duality. And as the journey progressed, I realized that when I was in the state of constant love and light, I was doing a disservice to myself because I was a doormat. And it seemed like all of the love and light, or hold on, let me take that back. All of the quote unquote negative energy would come and try to attack the love and light. And it was like a constant, maybe even a test of how long can you withstand all of this? And it's almost like they're drawn to it. As soon as I took out my light sword, as soon as I realized the warrior's path, as soon as I started telling people, and again, excuse the language, as soon as I started telling the energies, people's not the right word, let's call it energies. As soon as I started telling the energies, go fuck yourself, all of a sudden, everything changed. There's no more attacks. There's no more strife. There's no more struggle. There's none of that. Everything that's going on now is internal. And when I come across an energetic attack, the first thing I look at is myself. Instead of looking to some kind of external source, I'm looking to myself and asking myself, what am I doing that I could change in order to prevent this quote unquote energetic attack or a series of negative occurrences that may happen in your life, or you find yourself in a negative situation, so on and so forth. And it's unfortunate, but the New Age seems to have this victim mentality that, you're a victim of this, you're a victim of chemtrails, you're a victim of government corruption, you're a victim of spiritual suppression, you're a victim of the archons, you're a victim of this, you're a victim of that, etc., etc. And the problem with the victim mentality is that it puts you in a state of helplessness. Because now you are a victim. There is something greater out there that is causing some kind of action towards you, and most likely a reaction as well. And you don't have power when you're a victim. The way I see negative occurrences in life is, well, number one, shit happens. But number two, a lot of the stuff that's happened to me in my life has brought me to this point that I am now. Without some of the negative things that happened, I wouldn't be where I am right now because my path would be completely and totally different. So some of the negative things that we call energetic attacks really are just our higher selves telling us, hey, you're not on the right path. Get yourself back on that right path. And as soon as you do, then all of a sudden the negative energy starts to dissipate. Now, people do send negative energy, and I totally get it. But I hear this more often than not, especially with the anti-psychedelic people. They say, well, you get energetically attacked. I'll take that back. It's not even just the anti-psychedelic people, but it's also some psychedelic people too. They're under constant attack when they take psychedelics. And it's like, well, if you're under constant attack, then why the hell are you doing it? That's the first question that I ask myself. And second of all, it's, if you're going to play with archons, then you're going to be under constant attack. The archons disguise themselves as love and light. They come as love and light entities, angels, all that different stuff. And at the end of the day, they're feeding upon your energy. So what I've done is I've kind of closed off my energy, and I've taken control. That's the way to put it. I've taken control of where my energy goes. I don't feed anything anymore, and I don't let anything feed upon me. Instead, I give energy at my own discretion. And I think that's ultimately the next step in all of this, is when you can take the power and you are the one that decides where your energy goes, instead of being susceptible to psychic vampirism and energetic attacks and archonic attacks and so on and so forth. And as George Kavasalis said on the last broadcast, the most powerful weapon that we have is the realization of number one, our own power, and the realization two, that we are, we do have some parasites that are sitting there and sucking our energy, but it's really as simple as that. It's the realization, I get stuck in these negative thought patterns sometimes, just like everybody else does. But the difference is when I get stuck in the negative thought patterns, it takes me, 0.5 seconds for me to go, oh, wait a minute, that's a negative thought pattern. That's an archon trying to feed. And the big question is, are the archons external or are they internal? And it's parts of ourselves. But anyway it goes, something is sucking my energy, and I have the power to control that, and I have the power to take it back. I'm not a victim of anything. And the thing with victimization too is some people will wear this badge for their entire life. So let's say somebody was sexually assaulted, and people make careers out of this, about how they were sexually abused and assaulted as children and so on and so forth. Well, stuff happens, and I understand some horrible stuff happens to us. I've had horrible stuff happen to me in my childhood as well, growing up. But if I was to become that, if I was to identify as that, as I see a lot of people in the New Age doing, then where's my power? Where's my power in identifying as that? Where's my power in thinking that I was so weak at one point in time that I allowed some other energy to overtake me? No, stuff happens. We go from point A to point B to point C to point D, etc., and we have the ultimate power. Now, back then, I didn't realize I had the ultimate power, and this is why I'm on air telling people, hey, you have the power, you have the power, you have the power. But also, being able to control your energetic space is so important. And I've realized that disconnecting from certain people, disconnecting from certain energies, and telling some people to go fuck themselves, because it's amazing how the dynamic changes. I had one New Ager recently, and they were speaking to me in the most disrespectful manner possible. But they were doing it all cloaked in love and light. And, I'm pretty sure you all have seen this on Facebook, on YouTube, in the comment section. These people act like they are not being rude and disrespectful because they say, oh, this is with love, or this is with this and that, etc., etc. I just tell them, you know what? Fuck off. Go fuck yourself. Come back to me when you want to talk to me real. When you want to be real with me, okay? Just because you're smiling when you're pissing in my face, it doesn't mean that you can somehow cloak the fact that you're pissing in my face. So, get out of my sphere. And in this one particular case, the dynamic changed completely. And then they started respecting me because I told them to go fuck themselves. It's amazing how this happens. It's all an energetic thing. So the energies start to change, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, this energy has control of itself. I can't feed upon this energy. And a lot of times they'll just get up and just leave and just walk away. Or the dynamic changes and boundaries begin to be respected. And I think really that's what it all comes down to, is the respect of personal boundaries. But first of all, you have to respect your own personal boundaries. You have to set up those personal boundaries. What are you willing to take from somebody? What kind of negative energy are you willing to take on? And sometimes it may not even come in the form of aggression. Sometimes it comes in the form of people seeking help. I've noticed this in my journey. I used to get messages after messages after messages of people who seemed like they were seeking help. They were seeking advice. They were seeking this, seeking that, seeking clearing, seeking all this different stuff. But then they would just turn around and either get entangled again after I'd clear them or do something energetically for them, or they would just keep on and on and on and on. And what they're doing is they're dumping all of their negative emotional baggage onto me in this particular case, or onto you. And these people, I went to a friend of mine the other day and I said, hey, look, I got this problem. I hate to dump all this negative energy on you, but this is what's going on, and that's going on, and that's going on, and that's going on. And she said, okay, well, I have some advice for you. Here you go. End of story. And I determined whether I wanted to implement the advice or not. But that was the end of it. But there's some people that will just sit there and just, they're feeding upon your energy and taking up all of your time. So again, it comes back to personal power, and it comes back to personal respect for yourself. How much is your time worth? Where is your energy best given? in my particular path, I've realized that my energy is best given to those that are going to learn something from my energy instead of just feed on my energy and take my energy. And as a result, I have taught people how to take their own power, how to become the masters of their own reality. And I rarely hear from those people after that, because they're implementing what we're talking about here. So the dynamic changes, but again, it goes back to personal respect for yourself. And some of the comments that we received on this particular post here in our group, from the new agey kind of people, they said, well, no spiritual leader would ever approve of a message like this, of respecting yourself and this and that. I'm extrapolating on what they said, but they said no spiritual leader. And what I was thinking was, well, the spiritual leaders out there, when you have actually done the work and you come to these realizations, you are no longer a spiritual leader, because you realize that your job is to create leaders. Your job is to teach leaders. It's not to lead. And that's it's a different dynamic in and of itself, but you empower people instead of try to be a leader of people or any of that. And we see this. It's in the new age. It's cult following. It's no better than religion. It's the exact same thing as religion. You have to go to the guru. You have to go to the channeler. You have to go to somebody who is in between you and gnosis. So we use the term gnosis as knowledge of spiritual matters. There's always some kind of intermediary there. And that's what we seek to remove. We seek to remove the guru factor. Even when it comes to shamanism, we tell people, become your own shaman, brew your own ayahuasca, so on and so forth. And the ayahuasca people hate us for it too, because we're taking away that guru factor. And now people don't have to spend thousands of dollars to go down to Peru to get a small bullshit dose of ayahuasca. Instead, they're brewing it. They know exactly what's in the brew. Nobody is in their ear during the experience telling them this, telling them that, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, people are taking their own power. And this is where I see the leaders coming from. This is where I see the warriors coming from, is the people that are taking it upon themselves to do the inner work and to do their own work in and of themselves. So, it's a shame, but that's the way it goes when it comes to raw consciousness. Raw consciousness is balanced, and there is nothing out there that teaches balance. I guess arguably you can say maybe Buddhism tries to, but not Western Buddhism, because a lot, unless you go down and you talk to a warrior monk who understands how to fight while at the same time understands how to be spiritual, that's a balance right there. And this is what we're talking about here. We're really talking about like the warrior monk path, where we have control of our consciousness, we have control of our sphere, we have control of our energy, but at the same time, we understand how to fight, not only physically, but energetically, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Some people in the chat room are saying I stay off of Facebook, and I do too for the most part. Facebook has just kind of become a soul sucking kind of a platform, and there's a lot of censorship going on. Cherie just got banned from Twitter for no reason. First, they were accusing her of using bots. And then she appealed it because she's like, no, we're not using any bots for anything here. Sorry. I know for a fact, because I'd be the one that would be programming any bots or anything like that. No bots being used on her account. And then they came back and didn't give any reason at all. Same with Facebook. I'm noticing on Facebook, our posts are getting less and less reach, and as we're moving towards the 2020 election, we're going to see even more censorship, because it's the Democratic Party who was afraid of Trump. They realized that a lot of people were swaying more towards Trump because of the because of the way Hillary was exposed, and they're hoping that they can stop that. But see, what they don't realize is it's not that simple anymore. It's all been revealed. We have gone through the apocalypse, and the apocalypse is the great revealing, not only in the physical but also in the spiritual realms too. So yeah. Alyssa said Chris is turning into a lean, mean fighting machine. Wow, Chris, what a difference. Thank you so much for the acknowledgement. Yeah, I'm getting some muscle mass here, and I went and got my recent body scan, and my arms and my legs are considered muscular now. They've crossed over into that line to where it's, it's like 120% something on the body scan, but when it goes over 120, it's considered muscular. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, it was the will to do it. Now, if I can just get rid of this belly here, I got a 6-pack under here for sure. I mean, with all the work we've done, there's a 6-pack there. Now it's just a matter of getting rid of all the excess energy that has been built up and stored up from there. But thank you for the acknowledgement. I'm still at the beginning. I was talking to my trainer today, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Look, I've got definition here and I've got definition here. I'm like, do you ever garden? And she goes, oh yeah, I love to garden. I said, it's like a little seed. It's like when that first little seed starts to sprout and you get so excited. I'm like, that's how I feel about all of this. So I'm still at the beginning of the journey, but thank you again for the acknowledgement. We got another really interesting comment from, on our YouTube video that kind of related to raw consciousness. And I want to go over that here in just a moment, but I think I need to break it up here and take a quick break. Let me find something to play here. God, I need to go back and redo these break clips here because I lost a whole ton of them during the hard drive crash of 2019. Anyways, I'll be right back. We'll get into some more comments. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat room too. I do want to keep this short though, so I don't want to go over an hour, but I'll be right back.
Greed has poisoned men's souls.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
Has barricaded the world with hate.
We need to build a wall.
Has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed.
We came, we saw, we died.
The machinery that gives abundance has left us in want.
The Japanese government reported cooling problems at the Fukushima Daiichi plant.
Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
I pay taxes, bitch. That's why it's my problem.
We think too much and feel too little.
A study suggesting there's a surge in the amount of antipsychotic drugs prescribed to teens and young adults.
More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost.
A 90-year-old World War II veteran has been arrested in Florida for feeding homeless people.
The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture.
We waterboarded, that helped us. We wiretapped without warrants, that helped us. We invaded a foreign country, that helped us.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
getting praise from the ladies in the chat room, and I want to say I greatly appreciate the acknowledgement. It's I never really talked about this. I mean, I have kind of briefly, but when we got back from Egypt, it was rough for me, breaking all illusions from the Matrix and coming back into the Matrix again. There was reintegration, but at the same time, I there was nothing to do. Like I was like, well, I'm just wasting time here. I need to leave, and my body started to just do what it was doing, and I was really planning to exit the Matrix. And then I got the message, there's another site, and I'm like, oh yes, there's another site. All right, cool. I'm here for a reason. And the message was get your body in order. And I'm like, okay, cool. No problem. So it became kind of like a challenge to myself. I mean, not even a challenge. It's just to prove to myself, hey, I could do this too. So let's get everything all rebalanced. So yeah, thank you for the acknowledgement. But I was in a bad place, and as Brianna mentioned, the energy has changed significantly, and I've got to have something to look forward to. I've got to have a reason for existing here in this Matrix. And I felt like after the pyramid, it was done. Like we had finished. I was crying in the sarcophagus. I remember this. And I was like, oh my God, we did it. We're finished. And Cherie was like, you can rest. It's okay. You can rest. And I was like, okay. And I was fading away. And I was trying to remember her. Whoa, I can't leave her in this Matrix by herself. And came back. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I can, I don't know if I should go there. I mean, I guess, it's we have to be honest with everybody. Cherie has a leg thing that she's dealing with, and the surgeries have been really rough for me and for her. But for me, sitting there and moving at such a slow pace because she had to have her shoulder done. This was like a 3-year process. I mean, it was bad. She got the first shoulder surgery and then needed another one, and it was rough. And I was coming back from Egypt going, really, this is what life is going to be now? We're going to go through all this. And she's fixing herself, and she's gained weight, and she's looking great, and her energy is really high and everything like this. I didn't expect this, but there was this, as soon as we came back from Egypt, there was this really bad slope. I mean, just boom, just this crash. And then when I got the message for the other site, it rejuvenated me. It brought me back to life. But yeah, I was giving up there for a little bit. And now that we have come to a place, Cherie and I, that we can be together, but we don't have to be together in the sense that we don't have to do the same things all the time. So my diet has to be completely different than hers. She needs a lot of calories. Like, that's how I wound up blowing up, is I was trying to keep calories on her. So we would always go out to eat. We'd go out to eat like twice a day and some days, and always eating high calorie meals, always doing all of that, because I was trying to maintain her. And I was ignoring myself. And now she's like, no, you go, you take care of yourself. I will take care of myself. We eat together on Sundays, and that's about it. Because she needs, like I said, high calorie stuff. Or, we'll eat together, but we're eating different things. So we found the balance, and it was rough. But I'm glad that we're where we are now, because there's so much hope now for the future, and so much fire for the future, and there's something to look forward to. So yeah, that was the only thing standing in my way, was myself. And again, I always go back to this idea that we're the only ones that are standing in our way, like glass ceilings that we create for ourselves, and we can break those glass ceilings again by the realization. But yeah, I don't want to sit around and do nothing. That's my big thing. I don't want to sit around and do nothing. And I've become like so active. And I went to the doctor yesterday for my knee. Funny enough, my knee is a little bit funky, same knee as Cherie's. So I went to her ortho, and the building, there's like 2 buildings separated by like this big trail and forest. and I parked in the wrong building, and I realized, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'll go run through the forest, and I ran through the trail. Wasn't even short of breath or anything by the time I got there. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. So, yeah, today, I worked out for like 2.5 hours. I did my whole thing with my personal trainer. Then she gave me like a whole nother thing to do. And I'm like, cool, awesome, let's do this, So I just went by myself for another 1.5 hours afterwards, and it felt really good. It's a change and a rebirth. They say that the eagle, and I don't know how true this is, but they say that the eagle, when the eagle turns 35, 40 years old, that it has to rip out his beak, and that it has to rip out its wings, and that it has to rip out its talons, and go through the painful process of tearing everything off of itself and sitting there in a vulnerable state while everything is growing back. But if it can do that, then it will live another 40 years. If it doesn't do that, then it dies right there. And so this is my eagle transformation of ripping the wings off, ripping everything I thought I knew off, and going through it. And it's amazing because I've inspired others to do the same too. I get comment after comment. Just recently, somebody said, my 15-year-old loves your videos, and he's training on his own here at the house. And I was like, oh my God, that's so freaking awesome. And more and more comments like that. So we each have different paths, but it is what it is. We got a donation from Haska. Thank you for the love, Haska. 1133. Yes, that's awesome. How long do you store Aya in the fridge? I travel a lot. I'm getting a very wide range of answers. Thanks. I love you and the entire BTV family. So with Aya, we've had stuff stored for up to a year, 2 years. I mean, you can store it. The thing is, it ferments. So what we usually do, especially when we've had something sitting in the fridge for a while, is we'll put it back in the pot and heat it back up to about 200, 212 degrees. You want to be right underneath boiling. And what you're doing is you're removing that top layer of fermentation. And then we do a filtering process once again. And sometimes we'll drink it that night, or sometimes we'll put it back in the fridge overnight and drink it the next day. But it doesn't go bad, but it might ferment and create alcohol, which can cause, kind of a weird effect. It does make it stronger, because I have drank some fermented stuff before, but it's just kind of, it's kind of weird. But yeah, I'd say go for it. Keep it in the fridge as long as you need to, and with a good a boiling process, a good heating process. That's the word I'm looking for. Heating process. The fermentation will go away. So yeah, thank you for the donation too. And all right, so we have a long question here. And forgive me because it's written in one giant paragraph, so I'm going to try my best to read this. But it was a comment left on the video with George Kavasalis that I thought was worth going over, and it was a very lengthy comment. And the way I see it, if it's a troll, they're not going to leave such a detailed comment. This person is sincere. And so that does not bother me whatsoever. Like, people disagreeing, if you're sincere, I have no problem with that. It's the trolling comments that I'm like, all right, ban. I don't have any time for this. And it goes back to what I was talking about in the previous segment, which is the respect for myself. Like, I'm not going to give my energy to this. Simple as that. This is worth giving my energy to. I haven't read it in full. I only read a little bit of it, but I'm going to read it in full here. So this comment is not related to this video, but it's related. I was hoping I had some water here to take a swig of water before I start. But anyways, okay. This comment is not related to this video, but to your latest upload. So I hope you see this. Not meaning to sound harsh or offensive, but you have gone down the hallucinophile, Egyptophile rabbit hole to the point of no return. And since tons of people simply adore ancient Egyptian gods, isn't all this raw consciousness just regurgitated demiurge worship? So let me get to that first of all. First of all, no, it's not worship. That's the thing about raw consciousness, and this is what attracts me to the Egyptian pantheon so much, is that it's not a formal religion. It's different aspects of our own consciousness. and lessons and allegories that we can learn from this, but there is no deity that is saying, worship me, worship me, worship me. Instead, it's unlocking your own divinity through these allegories of consciousness. And what I realized through my journey is unlocking these different parts of my consciousness. I realized Isis, Osiris, Anubis, so on and so forth, were actually inside of me. Like, it's all like different parts of, like, imagine the whole, and it's all split up into different elements. Those are all the different elements. And this is where we get the raw consciousness from. By unlocking all of those elements, then we become the raw. It becomes raw because RAW, because we're deprogramming ourselves. So now we're void of all those programs, while at the same time becomes RA, because now we have activated all of our consciousness there. So no, I don't refer to these beings as external entities. However, I have encountered some programs within the Matrix that have certain functions, like firewall programs, which is like the Sekhmet program. Isis is another program in and of herself, but she's an unlocking motherly love kind of program. I mean, I can't even describe what Isis is. I don't even know. Like, when I saw her in her true form, when we were doing our ceremony at the Temple of Isis in Philae, I didn't expect that, but she was a computer program, no doubt about it, but she was on our side. She was there to unlock. It's like a antivirus program. That's the best way that I can describe it as. And again, throughout my journey, there's never been any messages of do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. It's always been messages of, you know what you do. You know what to do. Here, I'm just opening this door here so you can remember what it is that you need to do, or you can remember who you are. So that's why I'm really apprehensive of spirit guides and angels and, all this stuff, because when you have an entity telling you what to do, that's an archon, in my opinion. And they will come as Isis, they'll come as Osiris, they'll come as all of that, So I thought that was really great points that you brought up. Perhaps my next point will be rationalized away, but don't think human minds and souls can easily be hijacked, especially if those minds are vulnerable due to instability, hypnosis, Pharmakeia Sorcery, enchantments, astral projection, trances, meditations, etc., etc. Yeah, to a certain degree, consciousness can be hijacked. And, we talk about that. We talk about how the grays kind of piggyback on consciousness and go up and down, because the creator beings are the ones that have the ability to shift in between different dimensions at will. Whereas, say, some other beings that are in here may be going through the ascension process, but we can access these different areas. So we're like at the center, accessing different points within the matrix at our discretion. And the grays know this. And they're trying to access these other states as well. Pharmakeia Sorcery, that word kind of triggers me a little bit, because it kind of it tells me that this is coming from a programmed religious programmed kind of mindset. And so I see a program in your comments right there. And I just want to point it out for what it is. I mean, everybody has to work through their programs and all that. But yeah, Pharmakeia Sorcery. How do you describe Pharmakeia Sorcery? And how do you define it? I would say that Pharmakeia Sorcery is the opposite. It's what the pharmaceutical industry does. It's dimming the consciousness, taking control of the consciousness, rather than using sacred plants that have been used for thousands of years to open the consciousness. But at the same time, there's a big need for discernment, which most people are not talking about. Most people are not teaching. Most people are not even aware of, which is why we do show after show after show talking about the exact same thing, about becoming the master of your own reality and controlling your own reality and space and energy, rather than allowing spirit guides or entities or demiurges or anything like that to come in and tell you that you are less than what you actually are. That's where the deception and the trick happens, is when you believe that you are less than what you are. And we are all, when we come into this matrix, we all believe that we are less than what we are. It's something that has to be unlocked within us. But see, a lot of times these doors are completely blind to it, or we're blind to the doors completely because there's no light shining on them, which is why we do what we do at BTV, is to shine the light on those doors and say, hey, look, those doors exist where you may not be able to see them. You have to walk through the door. I can't do the work for you. I can't take you through the door, but I can show you there's a door there. Check it out if you want to. Sure, those examples sound old school and seem silly today, but are they? Same goes for demonic possession. Some say the degree of soul bondage can vary greatly these days based on the level of exposure to evil, especially since the modern plan is to lay low and hide inside. Yeah, I mean, demonic possession, how do you define that though? See, the thing is, you're talking to a creator being that understands my own power, his own power. I don't know. I think I'm more of a female spirit than anything else, but I'm in a male incarnation this time around. But anyways, it's how do you define demonic possession, and how does one become demonically possessed? You have to voluntarily give your power away in order for some other energy or entity or program or malware or something like that to hijack your consciousness. And again, it's the realization. So, I had to go through the realization myself and come to my own realization and shine the light on my own doors. But again, this is why we do what we do here at BTV, is to kind of illuminate those doors for others, to skip all the trials and tribulations and trial and error that we had to go through to get to where we are. Other people can start from where we are and proceed even further than where what we were able to unlock. These levels are said to vary based on individuals' level of interest in dark things, from searching to fascination to fixation to compulsion to addiction to oppression to domination to outright possession. There are dark energies that are inside of programs, and we're constantly being bombarded by programs in entertainment, on the internet, things like that. And there is darkness inside of each and every one of us. See, I think what you're failing to understand is that the darkness is inherently inside of us because it comes from our body computer. And it's the operating, first of all, from the raw consciousness and not from the body computer and not the body computer programming, but also being aware of the darkness, confronting the darkness and overcoming the darkness inside of us. That gives us our power. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that gives us our power. That unlocks our power. That's a better way to say it. How about that? That unlocks our power within ourselves. So fearing the darkness is probably the worst thing you can do. And the second worst thing you can do is ignoring the darkness that's inside of you, because it festers. And once it festers, then you get this new age toxicity that I see time and time again with people who they try to project love and light, but the darkness inside of them is so apparent because they've never bothered to face it down. They've never bothered to conquer it. I mean, you can't conquer a fear unless you face it head on. And if you're afraid of the darkness and you don't face it head on, well, you're always going to be afraid of the darkness. You can't overcome it. So again, same thing with religion. Don't worry about your darkness. Your darkness is an external source. It's Satan. Jesus will absolve you from all your sins. No work is done. All you need to do is just say, in the name of Jesus, etc., etc. Star Child donated $20. Thank you so much for the love, Star Child. I greatly appreciate it. Also, wouldn't common sense suggest that our basic concepts of good and evil should have somewhat reasonable explanations of origins? What are the possibilities? Universally random behavior patterns, basic duality of humanity, bipolar personality swings, virus glitches in the matrix, effects of created beings given freedom of choice, then turning bad, others, all of them combined. So I guess let me jump in here and say, yeah, I mean, it's all of them combined. You see, this matrix was infected with a virus, which then we became infected with the virus, or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe consciousness was infected with the virus. Then after consciousness was infected, the machine got infected, one or the other. But this is supposed to be a world of duality, but it's not supposed to be a world of evil. See, bad shit happens in this matrix by its design. Things that we would consider bad. So let's say, you look at the lion killing the antelope, right? That would be considered bad. Most of us wouldn't do something like that. Some of us go hunt every once in a while. I don't personally, but some people do. But you would see killing as a bad act, right? But the Matrix wasn't designed like that. You see, the difference comes in when you're out there hunting for sport, for example. There's just an example off the top of my head. Instead of hunting to get the energy and to keep the energy flowing, now you develop this psychological virus within yourself where you enjoy these things. Then that is where the virus starts to fester first. Then it festers into greater and greater and greater sadistic kind of thought patterns, which we see the ruling class, for lack of a better term, completely engaging in and reveling in evil, which turns into a darkness that is all about destroying innocence and weakness, or not weakness. Yeah, I guess weakness is a good term to use, but things that are less powerful, innocent, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, I'm talking about the stuff that happens with the pizza and the kids. That's like the deepest depths of depravity that we're talking about when it comes to this virus here. It's not supposed to be like that, but it's easy to turn to that when you start with the mind virus infection. It like I said, it festers. And then you look at religion, for example, and religion is one of the big ways that this virus festers. I mean, you read the Bible and it is the most morally depraved book imaginable. But people justify the evils and the horrors within the Bible and then start to project that energy within them. So you get this mind virus, which I call Yahweh, which is in your mind, which is now justifying the evil that you're committing upon others because it's written in the book, because that's supposedly God's will, so on and so forth. And you see how this mind virus, it begins to fester and begins to get into more and more and more and more and more depravity. So again, we have to ask ourselves, how do we define darkness? How do we define dark things? You say, people are looking and searching out dark things, but dark things come disguised as light all the time. Okay, you don't even have to see something that's apparently dark. Sometimes the light is really the darkness. And we get people knocking on our doors trying to spread that light, the light of Jesus, the light of Yahweh, the light of Allah, the light of all this. And then you got the poison there, the darkness, the inherent darkness inside of that false light. And then they'll point to the real light, which is you, which is wisdom, which is knowledge, which in Latin would be Lucifer, the light bearer, which is, I think it's inside of us. It's something that sparks. It's the divine spark within us, and say that that's the evil, that's the false light, that's this and that's that, et cetera, et cetera. See, everything is completely and totally backwards, but one thing remains constant. And that is, if you harm somebody, if you're violating somebody's sovereignty, somebody's freedom, that's an act of darkness. That's the only standard that stays the same. But when you bring in religion, then all of a sudden all those things can be justified and they can be reversed, satanically reversed. That's what the Satanism, in my opinion, is. It's the reversal of good things into evil. And that's exactly what religion does, is reverse those things and turns the good things into evil and the evil things into good things. You see, it's so what are some pretty good bottom line questions? Okay, so number one, didn't all adherents to every belief system that ever existed since the dawn of time, from atheism to Zoroastrianism, believe that human souls are only housed temporarily in these complex temples of clay machines we call bodies until we die? Yes, I don't know where you're going with that, but yeah, it's true. We are not our bodies. We're our consciousness that's inside of the bodies. It's a vehicle that we use. It's just like if you're, in the ocean, you would get on a submarine or you'd get on a boat or something like that. It's much more efficient to traverse like that. Number two, if our souls may arguably be the weakest entity of all the ones we've ever heard about from religion and folklore, couldn't our puny human spirits all get jumped pretty easily? Yeah, absolutely. That's why they seek to keep you in that weak state. They seek to keep you believing that you are a victim. They seek to keep you believing that you don't have the ultimate power. The biggest blasphemy of all when it comes to any religion out there is to say that you are divine, to claim your own divinity. That's the one state they do not want you in, because once you claim your own divinity, then you realize you are stronger than the other quote-unquote entities that are running around the matrix, that are sucking your energy, that are doing this and doing that. And, I think this is where a lot of people struggle. Even with ayahuasca, they're constantly being attacked because they still haven't recognized their own divinity, because divinity creates everything else, not the other way around. So if we are the programmers, if we are the creators of the matrix, well, then everything within the matrix, which was created, is then our creation. Our creation has to obey us, not the other way around. Again, the power is individual. If so, and how, why would body snatching happen in the first place? I just explained that, so I don't think it's relevant. Also, are there ways to, you know what? I take that back. Let me answer this. If so and how, why would body snatching happen in the first place? There's no such thing, in my opinion, as body snatching. But there is giving your power over to archons or demons or whatever you want to call them, or negative energies or negative thought patterns or anything like that. But you have to give your power to them. That's why every tradition is saying, let me into your heart, let me into your heart, let me into your heart. What does the New Age say too? Open up your heart chakra, open the Palladians. Maybe Palladians or Arcturians. I don't know. It's all the same shit. But they were, the first message that I read was, open your hearts to us and receive our message. All right. Why do you want my heart open so much to you? Can't you just communicate the information to me? And then if it resonates with me, then I can make my own decision. Why do you need in my heart first? No, I've learned that the heart is the most sacred space. That's what leads directly to consciousness, and our heart should be protected, and our heart should be shared only with those who we choose to share them with, and never open to allow an entity into our hearts. Let's see where we at. Also, are there ways to prevent or correct such a scenario? Yes, you take your power back. It's a proclamation that you make. And it's not only the proclamation, but it's also the gnosis, the true understanding. And also, you have to remove fear, because that's what all of these things operate on. They operate on fear. Fear of going to hell, fear of your creator, fear of this, fear of that, fear of death, fear of all that. See, as long as you have that fear, and I think this is where you get Gnosticism from. Gnostics, and especially New Age Gnosticism, are the people that they understand there's something seriously wrong with religion, but they don't want to step away from it completely, and so they feel kind of safe just keeping their toe just a little bit in the water. They're like, oh, well, it's angels, and it's Jesus, and it's this and that, and et cetera, et cetera. No, it's all the octopus tentacles that are coming into your consciousness. But, it's like a safe place. Like, well, just in case, it's like plausible deniability at that point, where it's like, okay, well, just in case I die, I can still say that I never denied Christ. For example, here in the West, I can still say that I never denied Christ, and I still believed in Christ. I just believed in him in a different way, and so my soul can be saved just in case. This is in my opinion, what the thought pattern is. Now, of course, I don't know. I've never heard anybody just flat out say that, but I suspect that's what the thought pattern is. Like, well, just in case, I have plausible deniability there. You have to know your power. If you don't know your power, then, and if you don't really know that you are the creator, if you don't really know that you are the raw consciousness, you're going to be open. You're always leaving a little bit of space open just for that little bit of poison to get in. And then once that little bit of poison gets in, it festers and festers and festers and festers and festers. Oh, I'm so glad I'm going over this comment here. Excuse me for a second. I am down to 3 milligrams. 3 milligrams of nicotine. I'm almost about to get rid of this because it no longer suits me, but I like the taste is the problem. I really do. And I do like the little nicotine fix, but I came down from 18 milligrams down to 3 milligrams. So I can leave my vape at home and be gone for like 4 hours and come back and it doesn't even faze me. So, I don't know. We'll see, but I do enjoy it, though. That's the thing. I enjoy it. All right. So, furthermore, If the overly dramatic manifestations of having one's body co-opted are no longer demonstrated in exaggerated ways in modern times, such as, for instance, a young South American girl speaking with grotesque guttural, fierce lion-sounding voice, roar, spiritual declarations in 5 different languages, basically possession, etc., etc. Does that mean possession has stopped happening altogether? You ever notice that the people who get possessed are usually the Catholics? Take that for what it's worth, but you let these entities into your heart, these entities can then control you. Same with the New Age stuff when they're talking about Palladians and Archons. You know, I know people that drink ayahuasca and they go and they play with Archons, they play with Palladians, they play with Arcturians and all this, and then they write me and go, hey, I'm under attack. What do I do? Stop fucking with Archons. I mean, I've only been saying this for several years now. Stop fucking with Archons. It is what it is, though. People have to go through the journey sometimes, though. I had to go through the journey. I totally get it. You know, my dad used to tell me all kinds of shit. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. I had to experience it for myself. Come to find out, he was wrong about 90% of the stuff he was telling me, but that 10% that he was right on would have saved me a lot of heartache had I listened. But I have to experience things for myself. He would say, don't touch that, it's hot. Why? I want to know what hot is. Oh, okay, now I understand what hot is. I guess it comes to wisdom. You know, it comes back to wisdom. Knowledge is knowledge, but knowledge with experience then becomes wisdom. And I'm one that seeks out wisdom. So wisdom comes through experiences, which again is why I turn to the plants, because the plants, with the plant state, I experience. I don't just read. I don't just do it. I actually experience. I actually go to these other realms. I experience these different levels of consciousness, instead of just trying to understand them from an observer perspective, or trying to understand them from a knowledge perspective. You know, I know some people who are so well read on all the ancient books and all this, but they don't experience it, so they really don't have the wisdom. They can regurgitate the information, but they don't have the wisdom. And I think that's the problem with a lot of the New Age philosophies out there. A lot of these people, they are very smart. I will give them that, and they are very well read, but they haven't experienced it. And because they haven't experienced it, they haven't gone through the conquering of fear. They haven't gone through the ego loss. They haven't gone through any of that. And realistically, spiritual awakening without ego loss is... I don't even ever want to say it. It's fake. It's an ego trip. That's all it is. It's an ego trip. You can't... You've got to go to the plants, because the plants take control at that point. That during your first few rides, you're on a roller coaster. You're not at the driver's seat. You're on a roller coaster. That's the only way that you can get rid of the ego. You can't get rid of the ego with the ego. The ego cannot kill the ego. And when you're meditating, when you're doing any of that, it's the ego in charge at that point. You can't kill the ego with the ego. It's simple as that. I wish there were other ways. I really do. I could bullshit you if you want me to. I can tell you, oh yeah, you know, I can teach you meditation, I can teach you this, I can teach you that, etc., etc. But it's not going to be real. All I can do here is just be real about the journey and how it goes. And you can't kill ego with ego. If you've never seen something like that with your own eyes, I was a missionary in my 20 years. Okay. You were a missionary. That's why we're getting a lot of the Christian-based dogma here. I was a missionary in my 20s, and I certainly did. Then do my actual experiences trump the non-experiences of others, as you suggested yourself? No, I mean, you know, I'm some people could be demonically possessed. I've never met any. I've met some people who are crazy and all that, but no, I mean, more power to you. If people are demonically possessed, they are. That's what we're trying to help people here realize, that they don't have to give their power away to any external being. We just got another donation in the chat here. It rolled past my screen too quickly, though. From Sandpaper. Brother, you are phenomenal. The Eye of Life is doing wonders already. It's been like 2 days so far. Joints hurt significantly less, and my tumor is on the pituitary, and my energy and hormones are up, and I feel great. Thank you. Dude, that is the most awesome freaking comment that we've ever received, really. For those of you that didn't catch it on the last show, Sandpaper said that he has an inoperable tumor that he's dealing with, and we said, well, we're going to send him some Eye of Life, definitely. And to hear that it's helping with that is remarkable. Real quick, I might as well go ahead and plug Aya Life since it came up. It's our CBD oil infused with the spirit of Aya, and it has been working phenomenally for people. Let me get it up here on the screen. The website is ayalife.com, ayalife.com, and you can use coupon code BTV for $10 off, and it's helped so many people out there that it is incredible. So thank you for the acknowledgement and for all that sandpaper. Let me get back to this this comment here, because I love this. This is great. This is a great comment. So he started it off by saying, this comment isn't meant to be offensive. You don't have to do that. If you're sincere, I can read your energy. No worries, man. I love this kind of stuff. This is fantastic. Number 3, does raw godhood contained from drug-induced out-of-body hallucinations truly seem to be the most reliable reality to embrace from beyond the veil? The big thing that I say here, people always say drug induced as if it's something negative. Everything is drug induced in the Matrix. A drug is a substance a substance or chemical which has a physiological effect when ingested or otherwise introduced into the body. Food is a drug, air is a drug, water is a drug. These are all things that fuel us. So the word drug, it doesn't faze me. And it just, to me, and with all due respect, it just illustrates the programming that you're under. When you see something like the tea from a bark from a tree, which is how all other teas are made too, but it's because it's a particular type of tree that has a particular physiological effect, that it's a drug in a negative context, or with a negative connotation. So again, I would just make that caveat there. But it's the most reliable reality to embrace from beyond the veil, especially since you eventually embrace your visitations from aliens during your youth, and you now believe you are one. I think you might have misunderstood me, because I don't believe that I ever said that I was an alien. Not by any means, man. No. I understand the grace. I understand the way they can manifest in this reality, so on and so forth. But no, I think you may have misunderstood me completely and thought of something 180 degrees away from where I'm at here at Beyond the Veil. Now, as far as the most reliable way to view reality, well, it is. But see, a lot of people feel that the psychedelic space itself is the reality, or I think that's the context that you're coming from. No, see, the psychedelics break down the programming. That's the thing. The psychedelics break down the programming. Once the programming is broken, then you can view this reality and the psychedelic realm at the same time, and several other dimensions as well, from the raw consciousness perspective. And again, that's what the raw consciousness is. It's the removal and the divesting of all of these different programs that we find ourselves in. Different thought patterns, trauma, so on and so forth. So it's not that the psychedelic space itself is the true reality. It's that now you're removing all of the different shades. You're removing all the different overlays from your eyes and even your third eye, and you're going within and you're breaking free of all of that and viewing everything from that perspective now. So yeah, clearing that up. Isn't that all just the same old vision being sold to every human being from the beginning? Well, the thing is, it's not something that's sold. It's something that is realized. And yeah, human beings have been realizing this from the very beginning of time. Visions are interesting because a lot of time they're metaphoric for consciousness. A lot of the times they're metaphoric for what's inside of you or what needs work, or sometimes visual representations of traumas and different kinds of emotional states and energies and things like that. But there are unlocking programs within the psychedelic realm as well. And there are locking programs. There are nefarious, malevolent programs. And it takes a level of discernment to discern those. It took me a while to discern it too. I mean, for people that have been listening to BTV for the last 10 years, You know, I have gone 180 degrees on several ways of thinking, including entities. I used to be all about talking to entities and doing this and doing that, etc., until I realized what those entities were, which are either A, unlocking programs, B, unlocking programs within our own consciousness to unlock certain elements of consciousness, or malicious virus-infected programs that are trying to hijack consciousness. One of the three. I never would have had that dynamic. I never would have thought in that dynamic 10 years ago. It took a progression to get there. But again, this is why we do these shows, to try to shine the light on those doors and possibilities that some people have not considered. And yeah, it's something we're doing is completely different here. Completely different than any belief system out there, any BS or anything like that. And then now we get a lovely little quote from the Bible here. Ye shall not surely die, your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be creator gods. Ah, yes. Beautiful. I love it. I love that. But no, it's not that you shall be creator gods. We've always been creator gods. We've always been that. We just forgot about it. So we're not becoming something. We're remembering what we already are. This is the difference between the ascension path and the warrior path. The warrior path is about remembering who we are. The ascension path is about becoming something that we're not. So there you go. Couldn't all visions be manipulated very easily from level to level, like a progression from basic starting point, such as being rapturally love-bombed during some glorious data rain rave party, then evolving onwards to the next stage of our mind movie, where we suddenly break through and ascend upwards, forcing our captives to spill their beans and obeys, even letting us practice our pushing off knobs and... Oh, now we're getting into a little bit of, dare I say it, a little bit of crazy there, man. I don't know where you're going with that. I mean, yeah, if your consciousness is a feather in the wind, definitely you will be taken on all kinds of different turns and all this stuff. But again, we're talking about claiming your own power here. So you're throwing in a lot of New Age beliefs here into Beyond the Veil, which again, we're not New Age, not by any means. We are ancient. We are the ancients. So, and later, while we gulp up more drugs, while vaping more weed nonstop, our minds envision many other life-transforming realities on a daily basis. Maybe even with the most powerful type of mind movies, while we're clinging orgasmically to magic rocks in Egypt, where dozens of other realms are revealed to us, levels which we need to breach after somehow ultimately learning how to punch a hole in this reality, so we can morph into a higher reality zone where we instantly become ultimate computer genius badasses, amazingly resetting the magic mother computer totally unguarded on the 13th level. I see where you're going with that. And no, it was totally guarded. The 13th density was completely guarded. There was passwords and symbols and tokens and resonances and all kinds of stuff that needed to be done in order to access that state. I just happen to remember how to do it because I removed all my programming and remembered why I came into this matrix to begin with. So now you're taking a jab at me with that, but you know what? And nothing's magic. That's the thing. We had another guy come into our BTV group on Facebook and say, I have all these special powers and I have 8 years of spiritual experience and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And I was like, nothing we do here at Beyond the Veil is magical. Nothing we do is miraculous. Somebody else said that too. They were like, well, what miracles have you performed? Nothing. I don't perform miracles. I just do. That's it. I just do. If I go to Egypt and I command a flood to come down, and we do it 3 times in 3 different geographical locations, is that a miracle? No. It's just what we do as Beyond the Veil. So again, it's relative to the observer. We don't consider these miracles. This is just what we do. This is what we came to do. And this is what I'm trying to get to people is the guru factor of all this. Again, see, everybody always has this guru mindset. And it's like, no, we all have the ability to do. We've forgotten a lot of things. So it's like, you have a skill set of like 10 different things that you can do, but you only remember how to do one, but you still have all that entire skill set there. It's still there. It's just, you have to remember how to do it. That's it. But you know what? All this stuff is like riding a bike. And you never forget how to ride a bike. But, if you haven't ridden a bike in a while and you get on a bike, you might, stumble around a little bit. But you got to remember, though, hey, there was a bike that I used to ride. Simple as that. Fixing all these virus glitch problems of reality before we zip back to our original place as creator gods in ancient throne seats as part of the Council of 8 twins and 1 hermaphrodite. Wait, only Chris and his enlightened pals get to do that because he's a 1 in a billion PC among us sad, hopeless NPCs getting energy rapid forever. Dude, come on. Now you're turning into kind of a dick there, dude. Keep the energy kind of, but I see where you're going with that. And, no, there are thousands of us, but there are 7 billion people in the world. So yeah, our numbers are far and few between, but, no, there's thousands of us. There are thousands of us in this game that are real, and there's a lot of NPCs. And with all due respect, the way that you're talking, it seems like you're running the Holy Scriptures. It seems like you're running the Holy Script. And, like I said, the truth that we talk about here on Beyond the Veil is for the creators. It's not for everybody. And unfortunately, the majority of people are non-player characters. So they're not going to recognize the illusionary nature of reality because this reality is very real to them. They're not going to realize their own divinity because they don't have a divinity inside of them. But again, it's not something that I made up. It's not something that I coined. These are ancient ideas in every single different philosophy from the Bible, which makes a distinction between children of men and men, from Thoth, who makes a distinction of children of light and children of men, Blavatsky, those with the divine spark, those without, the Gnostics, the psychics, and the Hillocks. These are ancient ideas. We're just putting them into modern terminology. But we unlocked it within ourselves, first and foremost, then confirmed it in the ancient books, which it didn't even click to me until recently that this was all contained within the ancient books. I used to just dismiss the ancient books as like, well, what do we need them for when we have all the information within ourselves? It's good to confirm them, but, it just is what it is. I didn't make up the numbers. I didn't do anything like that. I mean, there's only a small handful of us compared to the 7 billion people that are here. It's unfortunate. We want to fix your world. We want to fix it. And then we're going home. That's all we came to do. We came to fix, then we're leaving. Don't throw tomatoes at us while we're doing it. And they're doing the same thing to Trump. Trump is doing a pretty damn good job. And he's doing it with all this pressure from all these other places. Imagine what he could get done if he didn't have all that pressure and hate and backbiting and all this stuff. He's doing an amazing job. It's like, he just came in as a technician, in my opinion. I don't see any kind of hidden agenda with Trump. But, let the guy do his job. He'll be gone after that. Let us do our jobs. We'll be gone after that. We're going to make the Matrix great again. It's going to be huge. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. So, although you did indeed seem very nice, enthusiastic in reading this kind of rude sounding reply, want to know the real truth from a normal nobody who's been researching everything for over half a century. If so, send your question to so-and-so. I'll respond the best, etc. Again, as I was saying before, researching for half a century, that's great. That's fantastic. But you haven't experienced. So your knowledge has not turned into wisdom. That is the conundrum here. That is the disconnect here. If you experienced, then it becomes wisdom. Then after that, it becomes gnosis. So yeah, thank you for the great comment, and was a little bit rude at the end, man. I put my faith in you, brother. I really did. And I was like, no, just listen to the way I was talking to you up here at the beginning. And then you ended with that bullshit. I should have probably read it all the way through, but I enjoy being in the audience seat. And when I go over something like that, I don't read it on purpose because I want to read it for the first time with everybody else here. And a lot of times with guests too, I don't look at their material because I want to be in the audience seat listening to the material for the first time and asking the questions instead of asking questions from an understanding with 10 different points. I don't understand those 10 different points. Now I'm asking the questions in the same way that the audience is perceiving it and also asking the same questions in their own mind. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Got something from Reese here. I don't know if Reese wants me to read it on air, so I'm going to message him back. I'm going to take one more quick break, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think Mrs. Geo might be back here in a moment, but anyways, I'll be right back.
If you have a golf ball-sized consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball-sized understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball size wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. You look out, more awareness. And when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness inside each one of us. And it's right at the source and base of mind, right at the source of thought, and it's also at the source of all matter. This pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field. That allows any human being to dive within, experiencing subtler levels of mind and intellect, and transcend and experience this ocean of pure consciousness. It's at the base of all mind and all matter. And it's not the intellectual understanding of this field, but the experiencing of it that does everything. It's consciousness.
Travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires. As we travel upon the level of time, to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once obtained, no traveler returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we have passed beyond the veil.
All right, Mrs. Geo still has not returned. I don't know where she is. She's probably out doing chipmunk things. We got this sectional for outside, and I was building it, and I asked her to go to the hardware store. She had to go run a couple of different errands so I can get a little, to do the drilling with instead of manually doing it. It was such a pain. But Reese sent this interesting comment here, and I do have the phone lines open if anybody wants to call in. I don't want to make the show too long though, so I want the callers, if you guys want to call in, to be kind of brief, but down here at the bottom, 612-398-0600 is the call-in number if you guys and gals want to call in. So hey Chris, I had a let me make this bigger here. Da-na-na-na. Thank you, Facebook, for the little beep there. All right, so hey, Chris, I had a dream a few years ago. I was in a large, long hallway with very tall windows, with tables and lots of people. It felt like I was there to learn something. I recall at the end of this long, high room, I was walking with someone towards an opening, which was a view of a city with buildings, what you would have called Roman style. And they said the words, "This is how we do it. This is how we do it." God, I'm really showing my age with that one. And with a wave in their arm, the view through the opening changed to a beautiful valley landscape with green, pink, and purple colors. Green, pink, and purple colors. Then the being that was there with me held my hand and led me through the opening onto the edge of a cliff and said, "Lean forward." I leaned forward until I was on the tips of my toes. Then as my toes left the ground, I woke up suddenly in bed. Since that dream, I have lost all fear and now play my game every day instead of playing someone else's game. Beautifully said, Reese. And the dream state is very interesting. And if you were able to conquer your fear and overcome it in the dream state, I would say that's very similar to, I mean, it has its differences between ayahuasca and the dream state. But if you have these kind of revelations and conquer your fears in the dream state, and you can bring those out into this reality, that may be an alternative. Again, I'm always looking for alternatives. I have not been able to find anything that works. But if it's worked for you, awesome, man. And I can tell by your energy that I think you're onto something with that for sure. Let me open up the call board here and see, just so I can have it in front of me. Oh my God, I freaking worked out so hard today. I did 2 workouts, and I'm now starting to feel it, man. The thing is, like, when you're pushing your body so hard, you can like deter the pain, and I'm really good with pain, like as far as like mind over matter goes. In case you're wondering what happened here, I guess I can show you real quick. It's brutal, man. It is bad. So I had this burn. I don't know where I got it, either from the crock pot or maybe from the mat while I was doing planks or something like that. I don't know where I got this from, but it looked like a bruise, right? And then I went and got cryo done. And then when I got the cryo, I did like minus 310, and it freaking fried it. And I'm like, oh my God. I went to the doctor yesterday, and she's like, oh yeah, that's a thermal injury, and it'll heal up on its own, but it's going to look bad for a while. I was like, oh man, that sucks. But yeah, it's, but see, even with that pain, like I didn't feel it at all. That's the weird thing, man. It's like I can shut off the receptors. But what happens after a certain point is that the body starts to calm down. And then when it's resting, then all of the soreness and pain and everything starts to hit. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to the gym and work out. And then you're kind of like delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. And then all of a sudden it's just like, boom, just hits you. But it's good though. I've started to enjoy it. I've started to enjoy feeling sore afterwards. And, just, it feels like accomplished, I'm sore here, I'm sore here, I'm sore here, I'm sore here. But I feel like I got some work done. So we'll bring Nick Bravo on here in just a moment. We've got Matt in Trinidad as well. We've got area code 956 coming up too. So people are starting to join on the call board. So let's go to Mr. Nick Bravo. Nick, how you doing, sir?
Good. I'm enjoying the impromptu show since I'm working Thursdays typically. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting. You've said a lot of really great stuff, and it's interesting because that little love letter that moron wrote. There's a lot of spiritual, quote unquote spiritual people on YouTube who'd probably eat that crap up with a spoon. It's an ego test. That's all it is. It's nonsense.
Let me say this. I agree with you. And as I said before, it's not, the path isn't for everybody, so, what we talk about here, it's not for everybody. So if that's his path, more power to him. But again, you see, this is what I was talking about in the first hour, which was that fake smile, love and light shit. And then they're like completely and totally disrespectful. And it's like, dude, just be real. If you're going to tell me to go fuck off, just tell me to go fuck off. Why be fake about things? But that's neither here nor there. Go ahead.
Well, I know with some of my own shit, because the thing of it is like people have this, and especially like if you're in the New Age, you think that once you become enlightened, your life's going to magically change. And it's like, no, it's like if you had to, get up and go to work before enlightenment, well, guess what? You're still going to have to get up and go to work after, because most people are using the New Age or spirituality or drugs or anything to escape rather than enhance their experience here in the physical matrix. Because the only way you're going to get out of the physical matrix is after you die. So in the meantime, everything is can either help or hinder in regards to making this a better place. And since we're creators, our job is to create. And there's way too many people who sit there and they say, well, I'll create something when this happens. I'll create something when that happens. I'll create something when I move to this city, or when I get this job, or and that's all bullshit. Because if you're a creator, you can create from nothing, or at the very least with what little you have. And, using that focus and discipline is really, really what it's all about. Because if you don't have that, you're not gonna succeed in anything. You're just gonna be, you'll be 80 years old still waiting for something to happen. It's just not going to work.
You're absolutely right, Nick. And that's what I found in my own journey is I was looking to all these external sources, and it wasn't until I took the power for myself that my life started to change. And then I started to make changes within my life. And, even now, you're right. Nobody's going to exit the matrix until they die. I never say that because then, that puts thoughts into people's minds that I don't want to put into people's minds.
Yeah.
But, it really, if you can't, this is the way I see it. If you can't master your consciousness and you can't master this reality, then you're not going to exit. You have to master this reality first, then the portal opens.
Well, and I know with my own stuff, it's like I'm almost debating whether or not to tell this little story or not, but I'm going to go ahead and tell it. I know I'm going to get a bunch of people calling me a devil worshiper or some bullshit like that. So, as you know, I have this Baphomet statue, right? I've got a little altar set up, and I was having just a lot of stress and whatnot, and I went ahead and I just I lit a candle. I lit a pink candle. I held the image. I'm standing in front of my altar. I'm holding the image of I almost don't want to say it. The archetype of Supergirl, and I'm picturing her as the spirit of Aya. And I'm saying, I'm being like, I'm praying, I'm saying, help me, find the strength within myself to deal with this bullshit, right? And it was fascinating because almost immediately, I felt part of myself open up. And it's like, since then, I'm able to let myself get angry. I'm not getting depressed anymore. I'm actually able to get angry, and I'm setting boundaries for other people. And it's like, it was very weird. And I think the thing of it is, though, is most people, especially if you're dabbling in the New Age movement, it's all this, don't ever be angry, don't ever be hateful, don't ever, all this blah, 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 blah. And what happens is all that negativity gets repressed, but it's still going to radiate. And then it causes health problems, and it causes other problems. But if a person, because anger can be a really great power and motivator as long as you know how to use it. But compare it to gasoline. gasoline is a wonderful thing. It can power, incredible vehicles, right? You can fly into space with, gasoline, oil, whatever. But if you just got a puddle of it and throw a match on it, you're going to get burnt. And that's what most people do. They just, they're just walking around throwing matches on puddles of gasoline. And then they have their road rage, or they get pissed off, or they kick their dog. They never do that shadow work, which, if you're doing ayahuasca forces you to do that shadow work. And if you're not going to do your shadow work, you're not going to become a fully integrated human being and actually be the creator that, you're not able to express that creative ability that you normally otherwise would. Am I making sense?
You're making perfect sense, and I love the way you're putting that, because you're right. Anger is part of the human experience, and we have to either master it or it masters us. Same with fear as well. I still experience fear.
Yeah.
Fear is my trigger to make sure that it heightens my senses. Like, hey, I'm experiencing something here that is a warning to me to really take control, even more control of this particular situation. But I don't succumb to fear. So maybe that's the missing piece here, is rather than I guess let's put it like this: to conquer fear, you have to be able to control it. I mean, it's right there in the word, conquer fear. You own the fear instead of the other way around. It doesn't mean you ignore it, doesn't mean that you put it away, doesn't mean that it no longer exists anymore. Instead, you become the master of it. Same with anger too. I love the way you said that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they need to, just in my opinion, and this is in my own life too, it's like, what we need to do as creators is we actually need to do whatever we can to help, generate positive change in the right way. And it's like, get involved with your community, get involved in, take action, be active, move around, do things. It's like, there's way too many people say, I'm also kind of debating on whether or not to, start a show on YouTube or something too, in regards to balance, because I look at these people on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. I look at two different groups of people. I look at the light workers who all they want to do is love and light. They never want to focus on any darkness. But then I look at these idiots doing the left-hand path nonsense who want to pretend to be all about the darkness. And it's like, they're both just, they're both of them. Their lives are typically falling apart, and they're not doing a damn thing to make anything better. They're just self-deluded, sorry to say, because they don't have that balance. It's like, the same hand that can, caress a woman has to be the same hand that can, beat down a wild animal that's going to try to rip your throat out. It's that same hand. We don't sit there and say, well, my left hand I'm going to only use for good things, and my right hand I'm only going to use for, whatever, bad things. It's like, no, we use the tools as we need them. And we have to have that wisdom to know what tool to use. And those tools include, ayahuasca, or our own emotions, or our thought patterns, the foods we put into our body as fuel, anything like that. It's like, it just boggles my mind how I feel like I'm sitting there saying things that are so simple and obvious, and yet I look at the world around me, and it's like nobody's fucking, it's like if they know it, why aren't they doing it,
Right. Very well said, man. Very, very, very wise words. And again, I got to commend you on your journey because you have come a long way in the last couple of years that I've known you, and it's amazing to see. And you're right. The dwelling in the darkness. That's I see a lot of people doing it with the intention of light. You know, I talk about this, how people are constantly covering some of the most horrible things in political shows and things like that. Those people are the darkest people that there are. I mean, except for the ones that are like nefariously dark, but they don't even realize that they're dwelling in all the darkness. At the same time, those that are ignoring the darkness are doing an injustice to themselves and everybody else at the same time. It really does come down to balance. And, you know, I like what you said about the hands too, because you're right. We have to be able to be soft, and we also have to be able to be hard. I was speaking to a friend of mine who was she's like, you know, a butch lesbian. She's hardcore butch lesbian, and she was telling me she's having problems with her wife and this and that and blah 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 blah. And she was like, you know, can you just hold me? And I was like, what? And she's like, you know, I don't know what it is, but I just like when a man holds me. You know, I'm not attracted to men at all, but there's something about that strong, you know, feeling that even us butch lesbians, we like. We can't explain it, but we like it. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. But it's the strength. It's all of that, while at the same time being able to be soft and tender and all of that. I think it's just basic human emotion that we completely forget about, especially in the new age. That's all about love and light, love and light, love and light. Really, at the core level of it, consciousness is raw. Consciousness is strong and sensitive at the same time.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of it is you have to know. People have to get to the point where they can discern what's needed. You know, it's like if you're on a path of peace and love, well, that only works if your opponent has a conscience, because there's plenty of people all around the world who, you know, you can be all nice and polite and, you know, love and like you, they'll still cut your fucking head off. That's just, you know, the way they are. And in our American culture, we've denigrated, we've made strength something negative and violent. It's like we've thrown away, you know, we're moving back to the wise, benevolent mother, Aya, but then at the same time, we still don't have the benevolent king. You know, you get what I'm saying? It's like we need healthy aspects of the male and female, but we're still not at that point where we're sitting there saying, well, let's get, you know, we've got the weak man, we've got the violent man, but it's like, okay, where's the benevolent king who's going to be, you know, ruling his kingdom with wisdom and discernment? We need to get back to that too, not at the expense of the female, but as a complement to the female.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the reason why the female is the focus right now is because of how polarized we are in the opposite direction. So we have to bring it back to that point. But then once we enter this kind of threshold of balance, then that's the point when we go, okay, we've achieved it. We don't want to go all the way towards female, because that is toxic in and of itself. You know, it's the balance in between that brings it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like most of my coworkers, you know, especially in this area the state that I'm in, we have all these single mothers, and, you know, I've worked with like, you know, 19, 20, 21-year-old women, you know, they're all single mothers, and it's like, holy shit. And, you know, it's just like, I mean, you know, one of them kind of talked about like, because like, you know, dating or whatever, and I'd be like, well, I don't know if I could date a single mother, because that's you know, having to take care of a child, that's a huge responsibility. But at the same time, it's like, well, you know, if guys don't do that, if healthy, normal men don't kind of take on some responsibility like that, the next generation is going to be just as fucked up or even worse than some of us are or were.
Right.
You know, and that's the reality of it.
No doubt. You know, a funny story here, Nick, and I think you can relate to this. I was talking to the waitress at this place we go to around the corner, 25 years old, and she was asking me about life advice and this and that. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, here you go. And then she turns to me at the end and she goes, you know, I really appreciate getting advice from the older generation. I was like, oh, man, it's come to that. Oh, man. I was like all pulling the freaking arrows out of my heart and shit. I was like, oh my God, cactus spikes and everything. I guess it is
I
what
feel
it
like
is,
I'm
though.
18. I'm like, what the fuck am I? It's like I wake up in the morning. I feel like a fucking 18-year-old. It's like, oh, what do I need to do today? What am I supposed to do? What's going on? Wait, what? Huh? And it's like, we got these like little 18, 19, 20-year-olds going, yeah, he's an old guy. I'm like, fuck that shit. I mean, it's like,
Me too,
I
man.
mean, I know our generation is going to live probably easily into our 90s, maybe even, early hundreds or something, because with technology and health and whatnot. Another thing I want to kind of plug somebody else's YouTube channel, and then I'll let you go because I know you have other callers.
Okay.
There's this really great internet. Another thing is people who, like in our society, we need to start doing more stuff online. There's ways to make money online. One of these guys that I'm listening on YouTube, Alex Becker, he does email marketing and that kind of thing. He has so much fucking wisdom. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. And he actually kind of pushes this, what is it called? It's called brain octane oil. The company is called Bulletproof. I bought some, and it's like I've been taking it for the past week. I got to tell you, the brain fog is gone. I mean, I'm having to work, nights, and it's like I wake up in the morning, take this, the brain fog, it leaves immediately. I mean, it's clearing out a lot of that crap. And for anybody who does not, think for example, I've also bought the Eye of Life, right? If anybody thinks that the Eye of Life doesn't work, it's because your body is so full of shit that you need to detoxify for the thing to work. I mean, so honest to God, if you're sucking down a 2-liter bottle of Coke and, God only knows what else, yeah, your body's toxic. It's like you put a little bit of good stuff into a bucket of shit, all you're going to do is taste the shit, because that's all that's there. It's like you got to clean your. It just fucking amazes me how people sit there and you think they're going to take 2 drops of fucking Eye of Life and that they're going to feel great. It's like, no, get off the Doritos, get off the Coca-Cola, ride a fucking bike a couple of miles, start drinking water, give yourself an enema if you fucking have to. It's ridiculous. It's like,
that is true, Nick. I got an email. I got an email from somebody, and she wrote. She goes, I'm not happy with the quality. It tastes too good to be CBD oil. And I'm like, look, just try it for a couple of weeks. Write me back. Let me know how you feel. After 2 weeks, she wrote back, oh my God, this is the best CBD oil I've ever had in my life. Like, you got to give it a little bit of time and, maybe make some other changes in your life too. I don't know. But you're right. I mean, it's like whatever we put into our bodies, even Aya, if we're putting Aya into our bodies and then dumping poison into our bodies and back and forth, we're just throwing gasoline on the fire. Then we're throwing water on the fire. Then we're throwing gasoline on the fire. And it just, you're just counteracting what you're doing. So, yeah. Well said.
And that there's no way. Yeah. And there's no way in hell anybody's going to be able to do anything, spiritual if your body's in pain, in misery. It's like you got to take care of your body. I mean, that's just job one. Oh, one last thing as far as the frigging demon possessions. Most people, the only damn demons they're possessed by are their own shadows that they refuse to deal with. I've summoned a couple of demons. They're not that damn powerful. They're really not. They're just forces of energy. And
no,
like,
archangels are more powerful. And they're what the black magicians, that's who they call to when they want somebody murdered, is they'll call to Archangel Michael, for example. We had E.A. Coetting on the show, and it's in his book. You want to murder somebody, call to an archangel. Don't call to a demon, call to an archangel. These things are malevolent. I mean, they are. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, the demons are. They're nothing. They're like cockroaches. We can squash them, but everybody's always afraid of cockroaches, and they run. Oh my God, there's a cockroach. Okay, well, just pick up your shoe and just squash it. Simple.
Yeah, I mean, most of the damn things, all they're looking for is a free meal. I mean, they'll feed on you. The only power anything really has is the power within you that you refuse to recognize in yourself, and that's the dirty little secret that the New Age doesn't fucking tell people. It's just I'm so damn sick of like hearing people go, oh, talk to the fucking bluebirds, talk to the fucking Arcturians, talk to the fucking whatever. I'm just like, no, come on. It's like, why the fuck it's the same concept of, okay, if some god created the universe, why would he give a shit if you eat bacon or not? I mean, it's like, really? Because that's if you think some powerful being is like focused on your little mundane activities as a human being, as a talking monkey, you're either that's an ego trip. It's a narcissistic ego trip.
It's a good point.
It's like me walking around thinking that fucking Donald Trump or Brad Pitt, gives a shit about what I fucking eat for breakfast. It's delusional. It's fucking delusional. And yet you hear all these fucking people walking around. Sorry for the language, but it's irritating. It's like if you no God, no nothing of supreme power is going to give a flying fig what you do. Worry about your own damn self.
That's true. Well said, Nick. I got to let you go because we got a few more callers, and Mrs. Geo has come home, and I want to get our little section all put together before the sun goes down. So, hey, thanks for all the
awesome.
Freaking insight, man. Have a great day.
Great. Take care.
Love you, bro. All right, let's go to area code 956. I think this is Mark. Is that Mark?
No, this is Ian.
Ian, what's up, Ian? What's on your mind tonight?
Hi, how's it going? Much love, brother. I was actually going to talk about my experience with iLife. I had recently purchased it, and my first dream, I saw a couple of bodies, and I was hanging out with those bodies, and their faces were changing. They were morphing to faces of other people I knew, friendly faces though.
Oh wow!
And and that was it. That was just it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. No, but the second dream, which was intense, was when I was with a group of friends, but we were like college boys, frat party types, and we're a group of 4, but we were hunters. We were gray hunters, and I was the leader of the team. So we were just hanging out, and all of a sudden, like, we went to go catch one, but this one was really evasive. But for some reason, like, my other 3 partners there, like, didn't like, oh, let's not bother with it. And I went ahead and went after it because I wanted to find out what it thought of me, or like, I want to know, why are you here? Like, I was like chasing it. So, hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to remember. So I finally caught it. Yeah, sorry. I'm just going because I know you want to keep it short, so I want to give it to you.
No. Take your time. But this is incredible. I mean, I've heard people have written and said that the dream state is heightened when they start ILife, and we're getting confirmation now, and not only by email, but now you're going into your experience, and this stuff is doing way more than I ever expected it to do for people. So continue, please.
Okay, thank you. We caught them, and then the next thing, there's like a group of soldiers. They're all completely covered up. They weren't like all blacked out. Some of them were like in kind of camel gray. They were dragging the alien away, but we were not hunting them to kill. It was for capture alive, and they were dragging them away. But I was like, I need to find out. So I was approaching the gray. They were like dragging him on a slab. I don't know what it was. Yeah, I think so. And all of a sudden, I just imagined the gray as a bottle of shampoo, and I squeezed it flat. Like, I just imagined picking, like in the dream, I imagined him picking up the gray, smashing him in like a bottle of shampoo, and then putting him down on the table, and then he came back to being gray, and I grabbed him by the collar, like how you grab someone by the collar of the shirt, of their shirt. I grabbed him, and I looked as I was coming closer to his face, fading in. I can hear, "You're nothing but a secret." And then I it was like telepathically telling me that. And I said, "What did you say?" And as he repeated the same thing, but I woke up saying that in a demonic voice, like at 3 a.m. I was sweating. My heart was racing. I was like, what the fuck was that? And all of a sudden I had this chill down my spine. of fear, but it was nothing I've ever experienced before. It was something new. It was colder. That's the only way I can describe it. And then I immediately looked out the window to my left, and I just felt like they were outside my window looking at me, observing me. And I was like, you know what? Like, fuck off. You're not welcome inside my home. You can stay out there the fuck you want. I'm going back to bed.
Oh, so you took the power. You took the power and proclaimed your own power.
Yes, I did. And I just remembered that. I just remember, like, you know, like, tell them to fuck off. You know, I remember you saying that a lot.
Yes.
But here's the interesting thing now. There's a cactus outside, a big old cactus that broke off right outside my window. And where it broke off, it's growing a new little head. And the shadow, well, there's a street light across the street. So then the shadow at night, it looks like a gray, like the body of a gray. Exactly. Ooh. So I'm like, these motherfuckers are manifesting in that cactus as a reminder, like, we're watching you, motherfucker, you know, like something like that.
Uh-huh.
And that was the end of the dream. And ever since then, I was like, I gotta call all these guys and tell them about it, you know.
Oh, dude, that is phenomenal, man. I'm so glad that you shared that. You know, that's really cool. Gray hunter. I like that. I like that term, gray hunters. Because these little motherfuckers, you know, they're wily. They appear in the dream state. They appear in the Aya state. They appear in psychedelics. I mean, they're all around us. They're trying to manifest in this reality, and they have been manifesting in this reality. But I like that gray hunter idea. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I laid off of it for 2 more days, and then I went ahead and did it again. And I took a little higher dose. I took 1 more dropper instead of the 2, and nothing. I didn't get anything. I was actually looking for the grays. I was like, okay, let's see if they show up again, and they didn't show up. So I was like, I don't know. This is probably a test. I'm not going to get cocky, though. So,
well, I mean, potentially you shifted your frequency up out of their realm, or maybe it was the proclamation that you're in control of your reality, that they have disappeared. Like, I haven't seen grays in forever. I can't even remember the last time I encountered a gray in a psychedelic experience. But it was the proclamation of telling them, nope, I'm the creator here. You're not welcome. And that's it. They don't even come around and stand around anymore, where before they would always be around just observing. But that's phenomenal, man.
Yeah. Thank you. No, thank you guys. I mean, I don't know how. I think, I got to you guys through first Oppenheimer Ranch and then Leak Project, and it led me to you guys. And I was like, I got to watch these guys. This looks interesting.
Awesome.
For once, something on YouTube.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for sharing that. Rex is freaking awesome. He wanted us back on in April, and I totally dropped the ball on touching bases with him, but we'll have to get Rex back on. On the last show, I don't know if you checked this out, but on the last show that we did, when we uploaded it, I don't know if you were watching on Rex's channel, but we actually did an interview with Rex that was about 2 hours long, which is on our channel that didn't appear on his. So if you want to check that out, he went into some really deep stuff about grays. He went into stuff about different sites here in the United States and all of that. It was an awesome show.
When he was around the Mesa, I think I saw that one.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thank you.
You guys are great.
Thank you for calling in. Anything else?
Just one question. I wanted your opinion, if you happen to know the person, on Dr. Stephen Greer.
I've had Stephen Greer on before. It's in our archives over at tfrlive.com. We only did an interview with him for an hour, and this was back in like 2010, 2011. I can't speak on him personally, but I can say this. When we had him on, everything was really structured. We had to go through his person, and then we didn't talk to him until the time of the show, and he was really brief with us and then took off. His energy seemed pretty good. I haven't kept up with what he's doing with any of his recent work, but maybe we'll get him back on, because that's the way I usually fill people out, is interview them, and it's been so long that I can't really speak with any kind of authority as far as recent interactions, but our previous interactions were great with him.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, sounds awesome. Looking forward to it if it happens.
Cool, man. Take care. Later.
All right. Later.
Wow. Awesome callers, man. Awesome freaking callers. I never would have imagined. I mean, Aya Life is really working for people on a spiritual level as well, rather than just a physical level. And you can get that at ayalife.com, ayalife.com. All right. And I think this might be Mark here that's been waiting so patiently for us. Or nope, I think Mark might have dropped off. So Mark, if you want to call back in, go for it. If not, I think I will wrap it up here in a second. Oh, hold on. I got the wrong thing on the screen. So, I guess that's it. I think Mark has left. Amin is in the house. Wanted to say hello to Amin. We need a schedule with Graham Hancock. As a matter of fact, we need to, I'm going to pass that email over to Sheree right now so she can make that connection and schedule something very soon with Graham. And yeah, other than that, thank you very much for tuning in to this last minute show. Thank you for all of the awesome callers that have called in. And I guess on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. And we'll see you even further beyond the veil.